it okay? Turn it on. Good morning, I'm Carl Herberger, CEO of Corero. Thanks for joining us today. And we have Chris, I'm joined with the CFO of Corero. I'm outside of Philadelphia in the USA. We're a UK-based company with offices in Boston and UK and in Scotland. Chris is out of London. So we have a presentation. We hope not to go too long on this, but of course we're located here. So if you have any questions and so forth, you can join us. You can join us there. Any of you guys had a need to have water last night and realized that it would cost you like $17 for a bottle of water? And did you get up and have water nevertheless? Yes. You did, right? Did you get it from the faucet, or did you go buy a? You bought it because you didn't trust the water from the faucet. Would that be fair? That's fair, because it wasn't. There's something about the water from the faucet that you know probably has good water, but it may not have good water, right? Very similar to our business. We're in cybersecurity. What we do is what they call DDoS, distributed denial of service. And DDoS is a form of cybersecurity problem, which is about bad guys putting what they call illegitimate traffic onto the network to be able to take you down. And this illegitimate traffic is like contaminants in your water. There's all different kinds, there's all different sizes, and there's all different ways from which you can actually cause harm. And the threat out in the marketplace continues to grow. So one of the big ways that our business grows is, unfortunately, correlated to cyber attacks and the growth of cyber attacks. It's only one of three major ways we grow. But this world of what we do in cybersecurity is fundamentally different than most cybersecurity companies in the world. Most cybersecurity companies do not solve this problem. They solve entirely different sets of problems, but these problems of large DDoS attacks, taking companies down, taking countries down, taking systems down, continuously requires specialty software. So that's what we do. We do specialty software designed around DDoS attacks. Next slide. I don't have a clicker, I guess. Oh, you got the clicker. So a couple other ways of looking at this is the threat landscape getting bigger? And you look at the threats, and you can see, if you actually do a casual search on DDoS, you'll see how many times companies are taken down daily, weekly, and so forth. X, the big platform, got taken down 2 times over the last month on DDoS attacks, as an example. So if you kind of sit down and you can say, well, why haven't we solved the problem? Here's a couple of reasons why. There's now professional services, if you will, cartel-like groups, vandalisms groups that have actually started a way of knowing how to do these things, and then they sell their skills, like special operators. Sometimes they're funded by nation states, sometimes they're funded by themselves, transnational threats like a mob and so forth. And these groups often then produce weapons. These are now tools, cyber tools, that are used to just generate these attacks. And the powerful part about these weapons is that the people who get to use them don't really need to know much about what they're doing. They just need to buy them. Just like we don't need to know much about much of our software that we buy. We just buy the software and it magically does its thing. The same thing happens here. So the threat landscape is increasing dramatically. And we, as a result, have been taking advantage of helping people secure themselves against this. There's only one way to solve this problem in the world, and that's to buy software by a company that knows how to filter this stuff. There is no other way to do this. So if uptime or availability is important in your business, somewhere along the way, you will have some sort of filtration system that does this. And there's only about 5 companies in the world that actually make end-to-end filtration systems, and we're one of them. That's resulted in tremendous amount of revenue growth, recurring revenue growth, and for us, an expanding footprint around the world. I'll let Chris give some of the quick overviews of our numbers and who we are.
Yeah, I'm Chris Goulden. I'm the CFO. Just some financial highlights here. You'll see that in 2024, $24.6 million of revenue, which was a 10% growth on the previous year. Underlying in that, ARR growth of 16%. So we exited the year at $19.5 million of ARR. So that translated to $2.5 million of EBITDA, which was significantly higher than the previous year. And that's fundamentally built on a strong gross margin above 90%. And that high gross margin is led by the fact that we are a software-led organization. So we sell hardware units if the customer requires them, but typically only 10 to 15% of our revenue. Customer retention is extremely high. 97, 98% is our typical rolling average. We're around 90, 95 people around the world, and we operate in over 50 countries now. We've got a few slides further on that will double-click into some of these stats for you.
Just a quick question. Anybody, I know Artem and I know Noah, I think maybe were here last year. We presented the first time at Planet MicroCap last year. Was anybody else here in the audience that saw us? Bless you. Met you. So if you had invested last year and you take a look at the stock price rise, had you left this room, it would have been a nice investment for you last year, for sure. We feel like we're not slowing down. Essentially, our business is about this idea, keep ensuring availability to companies or throughout the world. And this is a growing problem because companies are all requiring the internet and constant up and always on in order to be part of their business. I mean, you can think of businesses like Uber or Netflix. Where are they? Where is their revenue if for not the internet is up and available, right? And their service is up and available. So the way our company works is to be able to put software in between the offending illegitimate traffic and the marketplace that you're trying to make, right? So we use this visual of like ramparts and hordes that are illegitimately trying to get into the marketplace, but the marketplace is unaware, transparently unaware of the protection that's being afforded to them. And essentially that's how we do it. We have 3 or 4 different models. We're the smallest player in the industry. We've been around for about 10 years. I come from the largest provider in the industry, not most recently, but most notably, where I ran the portfolio for the largest provider. And what makes us different is that we have an extremely adaptable, extremely transparent solution that results for a customer often in dramatically lower cost in the way that it's run, the OpEx, and the way that it's procured. And that's the way we go about it. Our software either sits in the terminology in our world, we say either on-premise, which is a fancy way of saying that we sit with the company. We're husband close to the problem, or we sit in the cloud. So using the water analogy, this would be at your faucet or in your Stanley cup, right? That kind of thing. And this would be at the municipality, right? Those filtration systems are often extremely different. They have characteristics to them that are extremely tough on both sides, but they result, especially if you do both, in the highest quality of your application delivery, of your service delivery for your businesses and so forth. So that's how the system works. We're adding a lot more professional services, and we've gotten to the point that we now have predictive services that are driven by AI and otherwise. So this is like a weather forecasting service. In our business, because it's defined by time, this has to happen inside of a second. We have to know how to characterize bad traffic and filter that traffic inside of a second. And if we can do it even before the bad traffic hits you, that's even better, right? So that's the idea. So I've been relatively newly installed, about 15 months in the company, and we went through a very, very aggressive new product development cycle, innovating at high levels and coming to the market with bigger and bigger portfolio. allowing us to take more advantage of addressable markets that we didn't have because we were missing some feature sets, and also address innovatively this availability problem with more product. And that's what we have actually here. We actually launched a brand new ecosystem at the end of last year, which we think will contribute product-wise, brand new product, about 5 to 10% of our overall bookings this year, just to that. Why is it going to be new addressable markets? Because this product is actually taking advantage of things that are typically purchased together in DDoS space, but we hadn't historically made. Said another way, most of our competitors were making one or more of these products and selling them together, but we were just selling DDoS as a company for 10 years. It's like selling a hamburger and we weren't selling fries, as an example. Most people like to eat fries with hamburgers, so we started making our own fries, as an example. Each one of these categories of the new products that we're launching have their own addressable market. Web application security, traffic observability, zero trust infrastructure protections, and so forth, that we think we're actually going to be able to penetrate in a much broader and bigger way. Another way that people buy DDoS is not with the threat landscape increase. Another way that people buy DDoS, it's a lot like a window to a house. DDoS to a data center is required. You buy a window when it breaks, and you also buy a window when you change your house, right? That kind of thing. So for us, data center expansion is a huge generator of net new sales to us. And if you're familiar with what's going on with data center expansions, they're exploding. They're exploding typically because of AI and also crypto. They're exploding because they need processing power. They need data. AI is driving this whole data search capability and so forth. And now there's an ever-increasing understanding and need in countries to build their data centers because they want sovereignty in their processing, not just in their data, right? They want to be housed sovereignty. So this is driving a big piece of who we are. Our strategy that we've taken as a company to grow and to get up on top of the industry growth rate of 15% CAGR and get to take share has been four-pronged. One has been to increase our global footprint because most of our sales has historically been originating in the United States. In fact, historically, our business was 80% in the US. There's goodness about that because that's the toughest marketplace for a cybersecurity vendor. But there's badness about that because only about 50% of the addressable market comes out of the US. And we were just simply not addressing the rest of the market. So now we have sales hubs around the world. And if you look at our RNSs, you'll see we've been taking huge amounts of wins in LATAM, in the Middle East, and in APAC, and so forth, right? So that's been a big piece of the strategy. We've doubled the sales force in 12 months. We went from 8 sales direct sellers to 16 direct sellers now. And of the 8 that were originating from when I first joined, only 3 continue to exist and move on in the company. So it's been almost an entirely new sales force that's been coming on over generally from our competitive set. The competitive set, and that's this one down here, is there's only about 4 other competing solutions out there, 2 of which dominate the marketplace. So this market is dominated by basically a red and blue solution that's out there, and we feel like we're a Dyson-like innovative, challenging brand that is going after the 2 entrenched players that have been out there for nearly 2 decades, and old and pricey. So we've been directly going after renewals of our competitors that renew about $500 million worth of business a year. For a company that does not get even $30 million, we think that we can actually feast off of competing solutions for a long time and generate a lot of growth. And then, of course, we only had one product for 10 years. So we had a great customer renewal rate, nearly perfect, but we didn't have anything else to sell them. So we've gone through this innovation cycle to now sell them many more things. And I think we can all agree that all companies are defined by selling mostly to their installed base, and organic growth is just a piece of the overall success. And we didn't have that available to us until this year where we have more product to be able to sell them and actually make a solution out of it. So let's just go through a couple of the successes in 2024. You see lots of logos on here. In security businesses, that's very unusual. You can go to any security company. It's very hard for them to put the logos of their customers on there because most customers don't want to tell the bad guys what security solutions they're using. The reason that we are afforded this is because these customers are such partners of ours and so happy with the solution. And our solution is one, if it doesn't work, there's no way you're going to renew with it. It's as simple as that, right? It must work first, and then happiness is second, right? And you can see how big the deals are. So at a company that's not yet $30 million, you recognize that we actually hunt in the 250, 350, 500,000 as a normal selling cycle for us, and $1 million deals are usual. In fact, we did 7 $1 million plus deals in 2024, and this year alone, we're already hunting that amount in our pipeline as we speak. So it's very easy for us to grow as these deal sizes get bigger and bigger. But don't take my words for this, and I always hate, bragging or about the company. But you can take some really big companies that have switched from competing solutions to us that are very public about the switch and what they've said. Paul Mazzucco is the chief security officer for a very large data center company in the United States. They have 40 extremely large data centers, and they on-ramp all the clouds in the world in their data centers. Here's another great example of how our solution is extremely different than the competing solutions. It is agnostic to hardware. It is pure software, which allows for a reduction of complexity, a tremendous amount of standardization and automation, this is the trend in any data center and any IT environment in the world. And you can see this is a very large organization in England. So handing it to Chris for the numbers again.
Yeah, thanks, Carl. So I said we'd double click on some of the metrics. So you can see the trends here on the key financial metrics over the past 5 years. Positive across all fronts, which is great. I think the two that I'd pick up on here that we haven't discussed previously is the $5 million of cash in the bank at the end of the year. We are debt-free. We are self-funded. The additional development requirements and projects that we have in place, all self-funded at this stage. I guess the other thing on here is a return to net profitability in 2024, which was very pleasing for us. Just conscious of time, I think this slide is probably more useful. So Carl mentioned about the previous 80% weighting of the US in terms of revenue flow. You can see the Americas in total for 24. We dropped that down to 71 as we started to grow and expand in Europe, but we did well also in the Middle East. Within that Americas number as well, the reliance on the US is decreasing. As Carl mentioned, one of the regions that we've expanded sales into is LATAM, and we had a couple of significant wins in Brazil in the period. Customers who, in fact, are turning into partners and providing opportunities with their customer base downstream as well. The pie chart in the bottom left, this breaks down our revenue, our reported revenue flow. So you'll see the dark blue section, 41%. This is our software that we sell and any hardware that we sell alongside it. Now, this is revenue that we take at point of sale. And then the other two streams, so the green one is our maintenance and support. So anytime that we sell software, we have 100% attachment rate of maintenance and support to some extent. Contracts are typically over a 3-year term. So maintenance and support is then recognized equally across the rest of that 3-year term. Likewise, the lilac section, this is our as a service offering. So customers who don't have a CapEx budget and need to buy on an OpEx basis, they can rent any hardware and take this, the software on a subscription basis. So the green element, which is our maintenance and support, and the lilac element being our as a service, these are the two revenue streams that contribute to our ARR. So the 19.5 million outturn that we mentioned, these are the two streams that formulate that. Cap structure, just really basic. Mentioned cash. Market cap is around the 100 million at the moment. I think we're about just short of 18 pence. Bottom left, you can see kind of key institutional holders. We are listed on AIM in London, so primarily UK-based. And then on the cap table itself, I guess the only thing to say is the only diluting factor that we have is options for senior management and long-standing employees.
All right, so the big thing I think that we didn't mention in this presentation is that we actually make about 30% of our business as OEM through other tech companies that are quite large. Akamai resells our product and uses and resells our product. They have 800 direct sellers. And Juniper Networks resells our product. In fact, the Juniper DDoS solution is the Corero product, and they have about 1,500 direct sellers throughout the world. Juniper Networks is one of the largest networking company in the world, and they own 10% of the stock in our company. And you can see here, we're continuing to grow that portfolio, but those assets and those gems are not normal. That's not a normal attribute for a company of our size. And I think you should feel afforded about the ability for us to make a great way in our business and actually grow and fuel the growth that's not normal to a company at $30 million. Any questions? I know we only have a few more minutes. 3 minutes left. Okay. Yes, sir.
I'm just looking for this company for the first time. My question is, how are you different from your competitor, like Cloudflare or anyone else?
Yeah, sure. Cloudflare only does cloud DDoS. Right, so, and will only do the products that are on their real estate, right? So if you have DDoS that's not on their real estate, for example, your Salesforce, or you're using Workday, or you're using an AI model somewhere out there, SaaS-based, there's no protections and so forth. So our perspective, cloud DDoS is both complex and restrictive, often cheap and low quality, right? That's a general rule of thumb for cloud DDoS. It's almost like your water utility. If you didn't trust, many people here didn't trust the water, even though they know it got scrubbed. That's how we view cloud DDoS. So cloud DDoS has inherent challenges getting things extremely clean. It mostly is around a Hippocratic oath that if you start to scrub very close to all illegitimate traffic, you will do harm with legitimate traffic. So you find that the scrubber allows a lot of illegitimate traffic through, so long as it doesn't take you down. It's a long answer, but basically to say, what makes us different? There's 3 major things that make us different. The first is that we're completely software-based, and we're able to be deployed anywhere in all use cases for any scrubbing that has to be. There's no other provider out there that does that. All other providers are either cloud on their real estate, or they require their software on their hardware. Their software is written to their hardware. There's reasons for this. I actually did this for 10 years in another, and I understand the reasons, but we have something extremely unique. Why is that valuable? I'm not locked into hardware. I'm not locked into upgrade cycles. I'm not at an extortion with a vendor that needs you to move to another product in order for your product to win. And I don't have a CapEx requirement then, right? So also with software, we have the ability, the only company in the world that has the ability to make your network do the detection and your network do the mitigation. You don't need to do the mitigation on our software at all. That's one of the reasons why Juniper is so much invested in our business, is because we can magically turn their devices into DDoS scrubbing devices, whereas everybody else requires you to get some sort of scrubber in your environment. Put basically a scrubbing device in. It's a lot like, I use this Dyson analogy. Back before Dyson, you had to buy paper filters, and then after Dyson, the whole world changed. We believe the whole world will change on the tech from us, because it's all about software today, right? Second thing, we manage these devices. We give you fully turnkey solution. There's nobody else that does that in the world. We not only just manage it, we manage the businesses. There's a company called GTT that does a DDoS business. We onboard all of their services, and we actually run the business for them, right? Every single one of them. And the third thing is that we go into companies that make revenue from us. So a lot of our revenue is OEM, and it's not even, you may not even realize that it's Corero underneath. And we will continue to grow with those big companies as they grow with our portfolio. Those are 3 substantially different differentiators, and we can get into sort of the qualitative ones with our renewal rates and our customer success rates and the scrubbing efficacy of our solutions, which is great. We're also only best of breed. Everybody else out there is distracted with platform products. They're all trying to do other things other than DDoS, right? So we're the only company out there that only does this.
If I have my own server, if I run like a website on top of that, that can be accessed outside world, you mean to say you're the only solution for me to put DDoS and there's no like Cloudflare or anything else that I can put? Is my understanding correct?
Yeah, if you do Cloudflare, it's not going to protect your server, right? It only protect the traffic that's going through Cloudflare. So you can't put Cloudflare's DDoS on your server, right? So if you want to protect that server, no matter where it's connecting to, like let's suppose you have a connection to Starlink and you're connecting to Salesforce, there's no Cloudflare DDoS on top of that, right? So if you want that server to be protected, not just a connection to your Cloudflare service, if you want that server to be connected, you need to do something. Anything else? All right, thank you guys.